My family and food is my passion, and shopping for the very best fresh ingredients is what makes all the difference. Join me as we go on a journey of heartwarming food filled with mouth-watering dishes, bound to get those taste buds tingling. Welcome to my kitchen.
It's time for simple, stylish meals with me, Sharon. In today's show, I'm going to show you how exciting mince really can be, and it's perfect for those of you on a budget. On the menu today, we have a juicy Italian burger with caramelized onions, a meat lasagna, an Asian beef mince salad, and we're finishing with a delicious meat pie. So let's get started with the lasagna. We always want to use a nice lean beef mince. We don't need a fatty one. Some onions, some parsley, tomato paste, Worcester sauce and tomatoes, which form the base of the meat sauce. And then I'm doing a bechamel sauce of butter, flour and milk with a little bit of nutmeg. So we want to start with the meat. We need to fry a little bit of onion. I'm going to use grapeseed oil. A little bit of salt on the onion. And we'll let that just simmer for a little bit while I start my bechamel sauce. Now with the bechamel, it's very important that the milk be warm. If you warm the milk, the whole thing cooks much faster, the sauce will thicken much quicker. So let's put this in the microwave for about 2 minutes. The warmer it is, the quicker the sauce will cook. I'm going to start my bechamel sauce with a little bit of butter. And whenever you cook with flour, you need to cook that flour for about a minute before you add the milk. We don't want to have a floury taste on our tongue. So the flour must be well mixed. Let it cook for about a minute. And then we slowly start adding the milk. Don't add it all at once because it needs to thicken as it cooks. And I like to leave it on a low heat just to bubble, because it's almost like it continues cooking and enriches the flavor once it's cooking on the stove. About another 5 minutes. Keeping an eye on my onions, which are just softening and getting beautiful and golden. And while they are almost ready, I'm going to add my meat in batches. I'm going to mash it with this plastic masher. It breaks up the meat quite nicely. My meat's cooked. It's time to add the tomatoes, but I need to puree them. I've got whole peeled tomatoes here, so I just want to liquidize it that it's a smooth mixture. There's quite a lot of tomato, so it needs to cook down and really infuse into the meat. It'll take about 45 minutes. Now we're going to add some tomato paste as well. That gives you a richness. I like adding a little bit of Worcester sauce. It just gives it a little bit more flavor. I've got some fresh Italian parsley. We're going to give a nice, good handful in there. The last thing to add is a little bit of fresh bay leaf from the tree. Crunch it up, let it give you flavor. And if you don't have one of the fresh ones, dry bay leaves work beautifully. We lower the heat and let it just simmer. My bechamel's thickened beautifully. I don't want it too thick because I need to be able to spread it in the dish. So we're going to let it sit for a little bit. I'm going to season it in the meantime with some nutmeg, just a pinch, some black pepper, and quite a bit of salt for flavor. But if you love to cook, there's nothing like a cook who puts flavor into their food. My worst is when somebody sits at my table and adds salt without even tasting. So I always put lots of flavor, then they never have to add it. Right, let's taste this. It's absolutely perfect. We'll leave it just on the side while the meat's finishing. The lasagna sheets come out of the box and go straight into the lasagna. They don't need any pre-cooking. That's the beauty of this. But the problem is if there's not enough liquid, they won't soften. You also have to make this ahead of time, because if you don't, they'll be quite hard if we bake it immediately. So that's been cooking for a while. It looks thick, it looks gorgeous. Now all it needs is a little bit of seasoning. So we want some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of sugar. So the sugar's quite important to balance out that saltiness. Give it a good stir and wait a few minutes so that it can dissolve. Fantastic. So let's assemble this. We've got our bechamel, we've got our meat sauce, we've got our lasagna sheets. So just coat the bottom of the dish with your meat. The sheets simply go in like that. Don't overlap them, just put them next to each other. Then we pour a little bit of bechamel, half the mixture, because it's very important to cover the top. Spread that. Now I know a lot of people are dairy intolerant, so what's quite nice to do with this is to use soya milk instead of ordinary milk, and to use margarine if you like instead of the butter, and that way you can actually make it dairy free. Right, we need another layer of meat. The most important thing is not to fill up the dish too much. You don't want to make it so full that by the time it bakes in the oven, it starts bubbling all over the place. So just enough to fill that dish. Another layer of lasagna sheets. And now we're going to finish with our bechamel sauce. Spread it well. And here is where it's really important, because you want to cover those top sheets that nothing curls when it bakes. Right, we're going to finish it off with a little bit of cheddar cheese. I'm going to set it aside, and I've already made one which should be almost done. It's beautiful, it's golden, the cheese has melted, it looks absolutely perfect, ready to eat. There you have it, a hearty budget meal. When we come back, we'll be making a meat pie, juicy Italian burgers with caramelized onions, and finishing with a beef mince salad. Don't go away. It's amazing how many different dishes you can make using the humble mince. We've already made a meat lasagna, and we're now making a mince pie, which is the perfect dish for every day. Our ingredients are mince, potato, onion, a little bit of lemon juice and parsley, some cinnamon, and we're brushing the pastry with some beaten egg. It's quite a simple filling, and you can beef it up with lots of extra vegetables if you have them. So I'm going to heat up my pan, add a little bit of grapeseed oil. Let's fry the onion. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to grate the potato, which we'll add a bit later. This time I'm grating it coarsely. I like seeing the pieces in the mince, and I could actually do some carrot as well, which will just give me a little bit of color. Right, the onion's softened. Always that little bit of salt on the onion. Let's add our meat. We always want to add in batches. So I'll do half. And then add the other half later. My masher makes it quite nice and fine. And I'm doing this on quite a high heat so that the water evaporates very quickly. Right, let's add some more meat. I'm going to let the water cook off and then I'll mash it a little bit later. This needs to cook for about 45 minutes for flavor to develop. So I'm going to let it cook till it's quite dry. The water's evaporated. I'm going to add some potato. Give that a good stir. Just want to make sure that my potato is really well mixed in with the meat. And it will develop some flavors. Turn the stove to quite low. Don't forget to stir during that 45 minutes. My mince is cooked down. I've added a little parsley. I'm adding a little bit more. We're going to season it now with a little bit of lemon juice. Not too much. It's quite a nice balance of flavors. It's kind of like a Moroccan feel. A little bit of cinnamon. It's a funny thing with cinnamon. It brings out the flavor in food. It's like you wouldn't expect it. It's some unusual flavor. And of course some salt and pepper. Let's taste that for seasoning. I'm always teased about the fact that I can taste straight out of a pot. But when you cook, your mouth gets so used to hot food it doesn't really matter. It's delicious. It's perfect. It needs to cool for just a few minutes before we put our pastry on top, and then we can bake it. So what I'm going to do is just put the pastry on top of the pie. We're not going to put pastry at the bottom as well. It makes it too doughy. I like it just on the top. So we need to roll this to fit my dish, and basically I just need to widen it a little bit. Still a little bit warm, but that's fine. We're going to roll the pastry. And what I like to do is just turn it over, coat it with the flour, pull off the plastic, and then we want to roll it just a bit wider. I think that's going to be good. Yeah. So now I need to just shape this a little bit bigger than the dish because pastry shrinks when it bakes. So even though my dish fits right to there, I'm going to go slightly bigger. I like having a bit of an overhang. The excess can just be refrozen and re-rolled. Fold it over. Dust off that excess flour, fold it again, quite a lot of flour. Put it onto your dish and unfold it. So now I want to tuck this under and press it really well into the sides of the dish because I need it to puff. So I don't want it to be too short that I'm not going to get in a lot of puff. It's got to be right on the edge. And I can press it with a fork if I like, or we could crimp it. And crimping sounds fancy, but it's quite easy. Means you go in with one and out with one, in with one and out with one, and just use your finger to make a really pretty pattern. A pie always needs a little hole in the middle for steam to escape. So we want to brush with a little bit of beaten egg. I've added a drop of water to make it easier for brushing. And you want to coat it really well so that you get beautiful color when it bakes. And we're baking on 200 degrees. This is puff pastry. It needs a very high temperature in order to puff. And it'll probably take about 25 minutes to get that beautiful color. Next up are our burgers, and I'm going to put an Italian spin on them. We have some beef mince, but we're adding basil and parsley just for a little bit of a twist. We have an egg, some breadcrumbs to bind them, a little bit of minced onion, which is raw, and it just all gets mixed together. We're going to caramelize some red onions, and I'm going to add some treacle sugar to them just to give them that beautiful sweetness, and that's going to add a new dimension on that burger. Lovely fresh buns, beautiful butter lettuce. So let's get started with the onions. We've got some red onion, so I'm going to slice them the Japanese way. This is traditional, normal round, and Japanese goes to the side. Now the difference is they separate when they cook. So we don't want to cut them too thin, because the minute that they cook, they're going to soften and they're going to cook down, and we're not going to have anything left. So cut them a little bit bigger to start off with. And these take about 20 minutes, so you want to do it on a gentle heat, not too high, otherwise they burn on the outside and don't soften inside. So you really need to keep stirring them all the time while they're cooking. Now the secret is to get the water out of the onion as quickly as possible. So if you cover them with a plate or a lid, it draws out the water, then remove it and let them continue cooking. So for the mince, I'm going to chop a little bit of basil, add it to the mince. We've got some chopped parsley, a nice handful, a little bit of egg, some breadcrumbs, and some onion. Now I need to shape these into patties, so I really need to get in with my hands. I'm going to put a glove on and give it a good mix. And they're going to shrink, so make them a little bit bigger so that when they do shrink, they're not going to be too small. You want them quite nice and fat. It needs to look like a beautiful, juicy, homemade Italian burger. Now I'm going to heat a pan with a little bit of oil. They don't need a lot because there is fat in the mince already. And you want to do it on a medium heat so as to cook the burger all the way through. So a little bit of brown sugar added to the onions. We need to cook off the liquid that's going to come out of them. Now with the burgers, the best thing is not to turn them. You want to leave them for at least 3 minutes before you even look at turning them, because the minute you start playing with them, there's a chance that the patty might break. And we want to seal them underneath with a beautiful color from the heat under the pan. Right, we've got beautiful, beautiful hamburger buns. Today I'm going to add some mayonnaise. It's simple and easy. Now the test of a burger is simply by pushing your finger in the center. If it's a little bit squishy, it's obviously not quite done. You'll also see juices coming out, but I like to rest a burger just for a few minutes before I serve it so that the juices settle. So now we can top them with our bun. I love putting a skewer through just to hold it all in place. And that is a yummy, delicious, juicy Italian burger with caramelized onions. Our Ways with Mince menu is almost complete. We've made our Italian burgers, our meat lasagna and our mince pie are done, and all that's left is to finish off with a delectable Asian beef mince salad. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Mince is such a versatile ingredient. You can use it from the fridge or from the freezer, and I'm showing you 4 simple ways to use it today. We've already made a meat lasagna, a delicious mince pie, some juicy Italian burgers with caramelized onions, and I'm now going to show you a fragrant beef mince salad. So let's get started with the mince salad. My ingredients for this are all Asian, delicious flavors. We've got some ginger, some chili, a little bit of garlic, got some sesame oil, cucumbers, lemongrass, carrots, some hoisin sauce, which is Asian barbecue sauce, some onion, bean sprouts, and some snow peas, and of course our mince. So the base of the sauce is onion, ginger, a little bit of chili, and some lemongrass, and some garlic. So let's get the pan warm. We'll add a little bit of oil. We'll slice the onion and let that start frying. We'll add the garlic, a little touch of chili. We'll grate some ginger in there. I think I was meant to have some Eastern origins in my past life. I love the fragrance, I love the flavor, I love all there is about that kind of food, whether it be Thai, Japanese, Chinese. There's just so many beautiful smells. Right, we've got some lemongrass, and I only want this part, so I'm going to chop it quite fine to add to my other ingredients. We want to let that saute on a medium heat. Now for the salad, we've got some English cucumber, and I'm going to julienne this whole cucumber so that it looks like a spaghetti. It's fabulous in a salad with a little bit of a crunch. It's just beautiful colors and fresh ingredients that make up the salad, and you could use whatever you have in your fridge. So I'm going to chop the snow peas into very thin strips as well. Just our bean sprouts. And we're going to give it a good toss. I'm adding the beef all in one lot. Just lightly mash it with your spoon or spatula. We just want to cook it through. So I'm going to leave that for a minute. Let's make the dressing, which is quite simple. It's a little bit of sesame oil, some sugar, and some soy sauce. And that's as simple as that. We're just going to give that a little bit of a whisk, and then the sugar can rest while we are doing the rest of the meat. We're ready to add our hoisin sauce. We just want to give it flavor. So it's about 2 to 3 tablespoons, not too much because it's quite a strong fragrant sauce. And there it's done. So we're going to dress the vegetables first, and it's just to coat them. I don't want a lot of dressing here because it's going to make the whole thing soggy, especially as my meat already has some sauce on it. Give it a nice toss. And I want to keep that cucumber as crisp as possible. Sprinkle a few sesame seeds. We're going to top it with our delicious minced beef, totally Asian. My mince pie is perfectly baked. It's brown and gorgeous. Today we showed you 4 alternatives to normal boring mince dishes. We made a crispy beef mince pie, a good old-fashioned traditional beef lasagna, a delectable Asian beef mince salad, and a burger with delights of Italy. Tune in next week where I'll be making some sinful desserts and tea ideas. We'll be making a dulce de leche ice cream, a freeform berry pie, camembert tricolore, and assorted pizzas. Don't forget, you can get all these recipes on the Home Channel website. See you next week.